And my friends, we have an achievement gap. Jeff mentioned it. He's correct. And there's no getting around it. You can look at all of the data in the world, and the achievement gap in the state of California is real, it's stark, it's glaring, and it's persistent. And we need to collectively address the achievement gap in the state of California. I really think it's the biggest issue. I think it's the biggest civil rights issue in our state this decade. The reality is that we have our African American students in that subgroup, our Latino students, our English language learners, and students from low socioeconomic backgrounds continue to lag behind their peers. Now, the good news is that when you look at our data, we're seeing, while our student population's continuing to increase, and I said that early on, we're also seeing our subgroups improving. So it's good that we're moving in the right direction. But here's the challenge. We're not closing that gap. We need to do this, not just continue at the same levels. We need to close that gap. We know all students can learn, and we know all students can learn to very high levels. The achievement gap is robbing the future of too many of our students. I sincerely believe that the biggest threat to California remaining the 6th or the 7th largest economic engine in the world is our inability to close that achievement gap. There really is a disconnect. There's a disconnect between our California public school system and too many of the students that we serve. And now is the time to address this disconnect. And at times, I know it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation, really, for all of us. It's going to be uneasy, but it does need to be addressed. The achievement gap is no longer just a moral imperative. It's no longer just a social imperative. Today, in this hyper-competitive global economy, the achievement gap is an economic imperative. Every person here can, will, and must play a role in helping us close the achievement gap. I've attempted to reorganize the Department of Education to help develop more effort to assist you with our delivery system at closing the achievement gap. I have formed a statewide P16 council, P for preschool, 16 through college, university, with some of the most creative minds in the state, about 4 dozen folk. Every segment of education is represented. Business, labor, the research, the foundation communities, all well represented. And I've charged them and philanthropic communities, and I've charged them with the responsibility of coming up with strategies and ideas and ways that we can together approach closure of the achievement gap. They're making recommendations and developing strategies as we speak. And as a state, we must design, implement, and sustain, and hold ourselves accountable for an ambitious plan to close the achievement gap. But I also have to tell you, candidly, there's not going to be any quick fix. There's no silver bullet. There's no one solution. And it's not going to be an overnight success. Don't look for any pronouncements from Sacramento tomorrow that the achievement gap's been closed. It's clear in studying the data that the achievement gap exists, and that it's more than simply economic disparities in our society. It's clear that we have racial disparities as well. We know, as I said, all children can learn, and all children can learn to high levels. We need to isolate, and we need to confront those conditions that continue to hold back large segments of our student population. And this will not just be limited to education. We're going to have to involve other allied professionals in healthcare areas and others to help us. Closing the achievement gap is going to be difficult. It's going to be a lot of hard work, and I'm going to expect and predict different solutions will work for different groups, different segments, different areas throughout our state.